We've all seen these people on the streets. Some of us have even interacted with them in one way or another. They have no state of their own and never have, yet they live in almost every country around the world. How did this happen, and why have they been hated throughout history? This video explores the story of the Roma people. Today, the Roma live on every continent except Antarctica. Their population is estimated at 15 to 18 million people. But where is their homeland? And when did they come to Europe? At one point, even the Roma themselves forgot where they originally came from. Due to the lack of a written language, their history was passed down orally for centuries, an unreliable method that led to many distortions. In the 15th century, linguists began studying the Romani language, which helped reveal their origin. Despite borrowing words from various countries they lived in, the Romani language preserved its ancient structure. Linguistic studies, later supported by DNA analysis, confirmed that the Roma people originated from northern India. Their ancestors began migrating around the 5th century AD, and the original group consisted of roughly 1,000 individuals. The reason for their departure remains unknown, but they likely belonged to a lower caste of acrobats and musicians. Tracing borrowed words in the Romani language, scholars mapped their journey through modern-day Pakistan, Iran, Armenia, and Turkey before reaching Europe. In each region, they stayed temporarily before being expelled and forced to move on. Persecution has followed them for centuries. Upon arrival in new countries, the Roma typically lived outside city boundaries in camps. They earned a living through music, fortune-telling, and selling herbal remedies and elixirs. Over time, they also mastered blacksmithing, which brought them respect in some countries. In the 14th century, they arrived in what is now Romania, where many were enslaved until the 19th century. While some moved westward, others remained under brutal conditions. In Western Europe during the Middle Ages, the Roma realized that pilgrims were treated with kindness. They claimed to be Christian refugees from Egypt, fleeing Muslim oppression. This deception earned them initial sympathy. As a result, in England they became known as Gypsies, derived from Egyptians, a name that persists to this day, despite having no connection to Egypt. Once the truth emerged, attitudes shifted sharply, and persecution resumed. They were banned from living in cities and faced ongoing discrimination. Throughout history, Roma people have been associated with superstition. In the Middle Ages, many believed they were witches, capable of casting curses. Some even spread rumors that the Roma practiced cannibalism. In 1782, Hungarian authorities arrested a Roma camp of about 200 people after several locals went missing. Under torture, some Roma confessed to the murders and claimed they had eaten the bodies. This led to a wave of brutal executions by hanging, beheading, and other methods. Eventually, the missing individuals were found alive, and the surviving Roma were released, though many had already been killed. Roma were often accused of being dirty and criminal. Although crime existed within their communities, stories were frequently exaggerated, fueling even more hatred. Unable to integrate, many Roma lived in poverty and resorted to theft out of desperation. For centuries, they were also accused of kidnapping white European children to raise as their own. This myth arose when light-haired children were spotted in Roma camps. In truth, some were the biological children of Roma women and non-Roma men. Poor families would sometimes give their children to Roma families who could care for them. In 2015, Irish police took a blonde girl from a Roma woman, suspecting abduction. DNA tests later confirmed the woman was her biological mother, and the child was returned. During the Middle Ages, anti-Roma laws were widespread and state-sanctioned. In 1545, the Holy Roman Empire declared that killing a Roma person would not be considered murder. Mass executions followed. In England, a 1530 law gave Roma just 16 days to leave the country or face deportation and property confiscation. In 1660, King Louis XIV banned Roma from France. In 1710, Emperor Joseph III ordered adult Roma men to be hanged on sight and women and children to be whipped and expelled. Austria branded Roma with gallows tattoos and expelled them. If caught again, they were executed. Even locals who helped Roma were punished with forced labor. Marriage between Roma and Austrians was banned. Roma women marrying Austrians had to prove they were Catholic, practiced a settled lifestyle, and knew how to manage a household. Persecution peaked during World War II, when the Nazis exterminated around 500,000 Roma. Their ideology labeled Jews, Roma, Slavs, and Black people as inferior races marked for destruction. A 1935 law in Nazi Germany allowed for the confiscation of Roma property and banned marriages with Germans. Before extermination began, Roma women were sterilized using crude and painful methods, often resulting in death. Nazi scientists attempted to justify genocide through pseudoscience. Robert Ritter, a German researcher, conducted blood tests on Roma to prove racial inferiority. His assistant, Eva Justin, studied Roma children raised in German families. She concluded they were inherently mentally deficient, prone to incest, vagrancy, and laziness. She recommended their extermination. Nearly all the children she studied were sent to concentration camps and killed. Only 2 survived. In camps, Roma prisoners wore brown triangles on their uniforms. Most were sent directly to gas chambers upon arrival. Few of the perpetrators faced justice. Eva Justin, for example, died peacefully in 1966, never having been prosecuted. Some Roma were subjected to horrific experiments. Dr. Joseph Mengele removed the eyes of Roma children with blue irises to study them, as blue eyes were considered impossible among non-Aryan races. Despite widespread prejudice labeling the Roma as unclean, their culture has deep concepts of ritual purity. Women are viewed as particularly impure, especially below the waist. Objects touched by a woman's lower garments are considered contaminated. To avoid this, Roma women wear aprons tied high to prevent defilement of objects they carry. They are forbidden from going to upper floors, as those below could be defiled. Only unmarried girls are allowed to clean upstairs. If a Roma is considered ritually impure, they are temporarily excluded from social life. Once they feel purified, they invite others to a meal. If guests accept, it means the person is accepted as clean again. Failing to disclose impurity can lead to permanent expulsion. Sometimes, impurity is used as punishment and can only be removed through sexual intercourse. Regarding religion, Roma typically adopt the faith of the country they live in. In Western Europe, they are mainly Catholic. In Russia, Orthodox. In the Balkans, Sunni Muslim. Still, they retain ancient traditions rooted in Hinduism. One such concept is Kunto, a belief in universal balance. Everything in the universe has its rightful place. Chickens, for instance, are seen as impure because they cannot fly like other birds. As a result, many Roma avoid eating chicken or eggs. Roma are deeply religious. Orthodox Roma keep icons in the home and observe religious holidays. During the Soviet era, they resisted forced atheism more than most Orthodox believers. A key cultural concept is Romanipe, the spirit of being Roma. It's not enough to be Roma by blood. One must follow the laws and traditions. Breaking core values, such as committing violent crimes, can lead to exile. Such outcasts are rarely accepted back and often turn to crime, believing they have nothing left to lose. In English, the term Gypsy is still widely used, though it is increasingly seen as offensive. Roma prefer to identify as Roma or Romani. This term has no link to Romania, despite sounding similar. It likely derives from an ancient Indian word, possibly denoting a caste of musicians or a type of drum. In Southeast Asia, the Bajau people are known as sea gypsies due to their nomadic maritime lifestyle. They are unrelated to the Roma of Europe. Many still live in stilt huts or boats, moving between islands in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. They dive for pearls, and some pierce their children's eardrums to improve underwater performance. The Bajau have unique biological traits, such as enlarged spleens, enabling them to dive deeper and longer. Thanks for watching this video until the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to see you again soon.